This week's Just You Award goes to Amy Porterfield. She's a longtime podcaster, an absolute professional. And the reason I'm giving her this award is because there are so many people that are professionals, and yet they still say, hey, everybody. They still say, you guys. But when I listen to Amy's podcast, I feel like she's just talking to me. And not only that, she has amazing information. If you are a woman in business, check out Amy Porterfield's podcast, the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast. Congratulations, Amy. Keep up the good work, and thanks for being such a great example.
I help businesses know what they're for and what they're known for. If you're going to understand yourself, you have to answer those two questions too. Everything comes down to those questions.
Did you grow up with this? Kids are to be seen and not heard. You do have a voice, and we want to hear it. If you have ever thought about sharing your story, speaking up, of course it's terrifying. Speaking is the number one fear most people face, but it doesn't have to be public. You could begin sharing your story just for your family. You might want to turn it into a podcast or a book, or maybe not. But the important thing is to start speaking, to start sharing your story. If this seems like something you want to do, and you want to just check it out, see if it's for you, go to www.coachlori.com and book a session with me. It's free, no tricks or trying to rope you in. It's just a way for you to explore what's next in using your voice to share your message, your story. www.coachlori.com.
Has your life, your dreams been interrupted? Good news. It is possible to reinvent our lives. People are doing it every day, and some are brave enough to share the struggles, disappointments, and challenges. If you are looking for a new beginning, a do-over, or to rediscover your passion, maybe even find a new one, then grab a cup of coffee and let's talk. Interrupted, Act 2, Reinventing Your Legacy, with your host, Coach Lori.
Ruth Easterling is our guest, and her coaching is called On Purpose, L3. What does the L3 stand for, Ruth?
It stands for living, learning, and leading on purpose, whether it's in our personal lives or in our business.
You have a lot of aspects. You work with individuals, you work with companies, corporations. What is it that you do that is your favorite thing that you're doing right now?
That's a good question, because it kind of all goes into one. But it definitely has different spokes. Right now, I love working one-on-one with people. I do a small group coaching. I also do helping people to be able to communicate together. So that I think that's the fun part, is being able to take all these little spokes and put them all together.
How long have you been a coach?
Well, actually, I have had my business since 2020, but I've coached for years because I used to work in the nonprofit world and did a lot of it not getting paid.
That's what I found when I became a coach. It's like, I've already been doing this forever.
That's what kind of like sent me off onto this entrepreneur world, was literally that first step.
What was going on in your life and what interrupted you to make you go into this?
So I'm actually an ordained minister, and I did that for 15 years full time. And I had my two girls, and life was super busy with them, and it's not a 9-to-5 job. I quit, and we ended up having a third daughter, and I just didn't work at all. I mean, it was just enough for me. When my youngest one went to kindergarten, I taught. And so I did a couple different things. I was an adjunct professor at a university near my house. I also started substituting at the local school. I just finally one day I was like, dude, this is not what I want to do. And I need to use some of my education and the things that I do for the future. A friend of mine just started talking to me about coaching, and I thought, this is interesting. I kind of like doing that. I always did like doing it. I was actually able to be certified as a leadership trainer and coach. Those are the two areas of my work that I love doing.
And you went through the Maxwell program?
Yeah.
That's a great program. And he also changed in his life. He was a minister, and then he went into this coaching, I think in his 60s.
Yeah, I actually had him as a mentor back when I was pastoring. My friend who got me into coaching, she said, you should really like do something like ICF or something. I decided to start my business in January 2020. My husband said, oh, that's fine. I mean, just try it. Like, most people start their entrepreneur. It's just best to start as a side hustle. And so I thought, I'm just going to do that. I'll just sit down and just try. So I had this whole plan in January 2020. I was going to do this coaching business, and I thought, I'll just do it for fun and just coach people that I know. Or that obviously didn't work because by March of 2020, my idea was done. If I was going to have someone certify me, who would it be? Well, then John's face came up. I was like, what's this? I was like, are you kidding me? They certify you in leadership training? I love that.
It's interesting. In my years of coaching, what I've really recognized is many people that come for coaching are doing these amazing things and they don't even understand or realize that they're actually leaders.
Yeah. Okay. So that is a fun thing because everybody's leader, and leadership is all about, if you boil it all down, you say, okay, what comprises a leader? A leader is really anyone who influences others. Everybody's a leader. If you're a woman and you're a mom, you're a leader. You get to check the box for almost anything and you qualify. I started doing leadership training with businesses. And that's how I went down that road. I was like, oh, I'll just start like with small business. And I started with nonprofits because I had 15 years of full-time work, under my belt in the nonprofit world. But if you're a mom and your kids are at school, you get recruited to be PTA. And the very first thing, my kid was like in kindergarten. And when you're a leader and you understand that, like I used to have 60 people working under me. I know 501(c)(3)s. I know how to have people work underneath me. So guess what? I was a VP. I started off as a VP of the PTA. So I actually have more years of working for 501(c) than just my being a minister.
So when you look at all that you're doing now with your training, what's your ideal client?
Oh, I love that. My ideal client is the person who's just like wants to grow. They want to become better than they are. And you just don't know what. And so my very first thing that I always work with people is on awareness. And we talk about your personality style and who are you? And the two things, if you look at my LinkedIn profile or my website, I help businesses know what they're for and what they're known for. If you're going to understand yourself, you have to answer those two questions too. Everything comes down to those questions.
Which really sounds like identity.
Because you know why? If you don't build your personal life and make it strong, it's as if you had built a house on the sand. Because the minute the ocean waves come in and you build a house on the sand, it's going to knock your house over. If you don't have your personal life in order, I don't care what professional life you have, it's going to knock over. You can have the best profession and you're going to hit something and it's going to knock your professional life over.
And so that's kind of where you're at. You're like, come to me when you're trying to get, it sounds like, clear on your purpose. I wonder if why you're so good at this is because as a mom, a minister, PTA, women, we just step into everything. And so I have found with myself and my clients, it's easy to have, what did you say, like a spoke, where we have all these things, but they're not necessarily the thing.
Right. Oh, yes. Thank you for saying that. Because you know what ended up happening was after I started helping people, I naturally gravitated to these women. I'm helping these women. And every woman I'm helping, I'm doing the same thing with her. The more I concentrated on helping a woman find her purpose within her professional life, because women were coming to me and they were like, I don't like my job, or I don't have a job that I like. It could go both ways. Like I kind of like my job, but I don't like specifically what I'm doing. But as I'm helping them, I'm like, wait a minute, we're doing the exact same thing every time. I finally, this is very recent, but finally in January, I wrote out a 6-month coaching program called The Purpose Journey. I was like, I can help any woman in 6 months find her purpose and step into it.
This is what I just keep hearing in anything that I'm on, any training I take, any webinar I hop on. This is the first thing they say. You've got to get clear on your purpose.
Right. And it's like unique that I even found that name. I just was like, it was really funny because I was just like, saying the same thing. And I just thought, I'm just going to I might hate that name after a while, but I'm just going to brand myself that. That's all I'm doing. I help businesses find their purpose. I help individuals find their purpose. And the L3 was, all of us have to learn how to find our purpose. We have to live our purpose out. We have to lead our purpose out.
Well, I love that, because a lot of the people that say you got to get clear, they don't necessarily teach it. They're teaching the next steps. And then sometimes I feel like I'm left hanging going, well, I thought it was clear, but maybe I'm not. When you help people get clear, what are some things that have surprised you?
That's a great question. Just off the top of my head, that I didn't realize how many women were so lost. You can call me naive, and probably it's because when I was 20 years old, I just said, I'm just going to do what I think my purpose is. And so I just walked into it. I became a minister. Obviously, there's not a lot of women ministers, but what I found is that women have this world in which we have bought into what society says. We need to have a house, a car, and our 2 kids or 3 kids, and it's like there's this journey we're on. Literally, women get to the place where, and this because majority of women that I've worked with have been in this place, and they're like, their kids are like in junior high or high school, and they kind of get there and they go, it's kind of like that dead end, but it's not really a dead end, but you just don't know what's next. I mean, you're just standing there going, wait, I did everything I was supposed to do. Now I'm standing here going, what in the heck am I supposed to do? I'm only like 45 or 40. I was really kind of shocked when I got there, and I was like, oh, you don't know what to do? Well, let me show you.
The thing I noticed is, for me, I had gone to a counselor and she had kind of reflected to me some things I was doing. I just thought it's what you do. I was running a toddler play center in my community. I was kind of like the resource person. I was finding out where everything was, and I was meeting all the moms. And I just thought, hey, this is a play date for my kids. I remember leaving her office and she had saying how amazing it is to be this resource person and do all these things. And I'm like, well, why would she lie to me? And then all of a sudden I started to realize, hey, I do have something to offer. So I took that because somebody reflected to me what they saw, and I turned it into something and I owned it. It's not like an arrogance, but it was a confidence. And it was like, hey, we can really use these resources, and let's make it bigger. Let's let more women in and let's help each other. Sometimes maybe if they've had childhood trauma, they may not really realize, or they're doing what they don't even realize how important what they're doing is. They think
Right.
it's minimal.
Yeah. And it's really about awareness. I mean, that's really what it is. And the problem is there's this disconnect, and I'm not really sure what it is, where we live in a society that the awareness is not there. I was like really surprised because, and maybe it's, again, it was just the profession I chose, or I lived in the 90s. I don't know, but I felt like I was empowered as a woman. I felt like where my mom came, and my mom was like 1940s. She was in high school and stuff in the 40s, 50s, college. And I felt like what women did between 1920 and 1960 was huge. But I feel like what we've done in the last 20 years has like been nothing. Like either we're standing still or we're going backwards. I don't know. I mean, I'm not in charge of that. But I just feel like we just have stood still. Again, this is not to be political. I just was like, do you not feel empowered? Like, guess not.
When you recognize that, what do you do to help women feel empowered?
Very first thing is that we talk about awareness, and we talk about, are you where do you get that sense of worthiness from? Is it coming from your children, your husband, your job? Because if you find it in that, you got to do some work.
What I see is the empty nesters. The kids graduate and now mom's like, oh no, what do I do?
Yep.
And that was one of my original focuses as a coach, is be ready, because I got back into radio. That was what I wanted to do. I lived on an island. It didn't work when I was raising my kids, but once they graduated, I had been making plans all along, but I had learned about some of this empowerment. But it seems like we get more praise for doing the mom and the PTA than stepping out. I've heard working women say they feel so isolated because instead of women being like, hey, I'm a stay-home mom, you're a working mom, let's work together, they're like, you're a working mom. Like there's this kind of conflict.
Yeah. Okay. So here is where I'm on a quest. I'm going to figure this one out, because what I ended up doing was, I mean, this is all super new, and and I'm not even totally there yet. But in January, I told you I put together a 6-month program, right? And then I had the opportunity, and this is just a thing that happens throughout the year, is in October, I have this general conference I'm doing. It's called Live to Lead. It's for the general public. Anyone can go to it. If you can be a business owner, you don't have to be. You're just a person. You just come for personal and professional growth. It just came to me. So you kind of throw your money in the pot, but you do it live and you bring in these speakers. And so they come in virtually. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it 2 times. I'm going to have one for general public and I'm going to do a women's business event. Now, I haven't had the event yet because it's September while you and I are talking, but it occurred to me, if I do this, I need to talk to these women about empowering them to know that they can come. Because here's what I found. The more I work with women and men are like, oh, conference? Yeah, okay, I get, they understand the whole concept behind it. They will take the time out. They will do stuff like that for them. And women will be like, I can't do it. I've got too many things, what you and I are just talking about. I've got too many things and I just can't do that. What I found is that women won't take the time. And like you said, women who work and become the super mom, they want to be able to do everything. And some women have figured it out, but some women haven't, but they don't feel like they can either.
At my age, some of my friends are caregivers. And I had an interesting conversation with one the other day, and she said her counselor is telling her to take some time. And she's like, I can't. But then one of her kids called and said, hey, we're going out of town. Can you babysit for a weekend, like some overnights? And she's like, well, of course. And she, all of a sudden it clicked with her. Oh, I always say I can't because I'm a caregiver. It doesn't even come into my mind that I could do something for myself because I've been doing this for so long. And even though it's babysitting, it's her grandson who it's so fun. So that really keys in your thing about awareness. It makes me wonder, I feel like, what are things we can do as coaches to help women even recognize, yes, this is for you?
Yeah. Okay. So what I decided to do is I'm launching a group and I've got like 5 women coming, and it's called Empowering Women to Lead. It's going to be a live, but empowering women to lead, because here's the thing. All of us as women lead. We all lead. We all need the technique to lead, because men get mentors all the time. Men can have a balanced life, because they can go, well, I go to work at this time and I come home at this time and I do this and I do this and I do this, right? Women can't. I think it's unrealistic. And so I've told all my women clients, I say, we have a life of rhythm, because balance is either it's for men or else it's not true. It's a lie, right?
Yeah, that's what I say.
I'm not a male, so I don't know.
Yeah, I say a balanced life, because it's going to change every phase.
Yes.
Every time a kid changes a grade, every
Girl,
time.
talk to me about that, right?
Exactly.
And because and same with my job. Okay, so I started this, go back to the entrepreneur part. I started the side hustle, right? I know nothing about entrepreneurship, right? I know everything about coaching. You want a good coach? I'm a good coach. I'm a good leadership trainer too. I teach. I mean, everything. I do all this stuff. I can speak, I can teach, I can, but can I be an entrepreneur? Now, I don't know squat about that. And so what I did was I started learning from everybody, doing it part-time, everything. So my youngest daughter is 16. So in March, she starts driving. My gosh, right? I just got an hour back every day in March. I mean, let's talk about rhythm. So I thought, you know what, this is great. I'll do this from March till May, because then my other daughter's graduating from high school. And so I'm just going to pretend I'm working 40 hours a week, right? So I did that for a little while. And then, of course, my daughter graduated from high school. That alone is a full-time job. I'm just so you got 900 things to do. I get to the end of summer, because summer is crazy when your kid is graduating from high school and now they're going to college. You got all that to do too. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this hat on. So off she goes to high school, because I'm not going to see her. She leaves at 7:30 in the morning, comes home at 5:30, has dinner, and then does her homework, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So she goes to school for 3 days. I'm like so excited. And then guess what? The school district we're at gets attacked by a cyber person and the school shut down. I thought I was in COVID again. Mom, what are we doing today? Let's talk about rhythms, okay? Because you have to change your hat. When it happens, each woman's going to do it differently. But for me, if my kid's at home and she says, let's do something, I say, I mean, obviously I have boundaries on it and say, okay, I can do something from this time to this time. But, you got to get your other hat back on. And our hats change. I've got 3 girls. They're coming, they're going. I don't care. And we all know it. Even when your kid's off to college, even when your kid lives in another town, you still have to wear a different hat. Okay, there we go.
That's so good because it just shows, again, that's the mindset of the woman. We're available. And for me, I was a single mom. So when a child needed a ride, it was me.
There you go.
So if I was in the middle of something, we see that women can do it. I think sometimes they don't realize that they can. They need awareness, but it seems like maybe what they also need is permission.
Yes. I love that. Thank you for saying that. Yes. And that is exactly what I was given when I was 19 years old, 20 years old. But women are not given that. And we just need to give women a permission. And literally that is what I do with my 6-month coaching is I sit women down and we go through the awareness. I give them some systems. We're not trained like men are. We don't have this feeling that I go off to my job at 8:00 in the morning and I come home at 5:00 at night. And let me tell you, if women could do that, you think about all the work we get done and not being interrupted. And the thing is that men we live in a liberated world. I totally believe in that because I have so many male friends who are willing to my husband too, drop their job at 2:00 in the afternoon if the school calls and they say you need to go because they work in an environment that says, oh yeah, go ahead and go. This is not a male bashing thing, but the thing is when you live in a world in which you're given the time from 8 to 5 and an occasional, I got to drop what I'm doing and go pick up my kid at 2, right? Okay, I can do that. But when you live in the world that you just described, where it's like all of a sudden unplanned, unexpected, and how do you deal with that?
And like you said, entrepreneur, we're at home and we're working, but it's sort of like we're at home, our work doesn't matter.
Right, and our kids don't know the difference. And my husband knows the difference, but it's like, it's still, the other day is like, hey, call this person, do this. And I'm like, and I could say, oh no, you do it because I got stuff to do. And I'm like, no, I mean, I've always done it. So I just do it because that's what we do.
But I think that is kind of the dilemma. And I love that we've talked about this because maybe somebody is listening going, I've always wanted to do my own thing. I just didn't know I could. And it's like, it's not going to be perfect. The thing about being an entrepreneur is like, you got to figure out what you're going to hire out, what you're going to try to figure out. You're wearing all these different hats, which you've already got a shelf full of hats from family. And maybe you're a sandwich generation and you're taking care of your parent. There's a lot on the woman. And like you said, I mean, my son and my son-in-law, they're wonderful. They take care of the kids. They step up, they come home, they do all those things. But I think there's still this mom guilt. Yes. I love that you're going to do this conference and you're going to invite women and you're going to just give them permission to be empowered. And like you say, I don't go, you do it yourself. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, how can we share? We're talking about finding a rhythm. I love that. A rhythm.
Yeah, exactly.
That works with everyone and that we can still do what we love and help other people to get to where they want to be.
Yeah, here's the thing. In the 6-month program, I talk to women about systems. Now, I have lots of women. Like I have one of my clients is a CEO of a nonprofit. Smart. And when I got to the systems part, I have videos and you watch the video, the teaching from me, and then you come back to the coaching. And I said, so what do you think? She said, I can't do this job anymore. And I said, well, why not? And she said, because what I want, my purpose of what I want, like to be home with my kids because they're in junior high and high school, this job is not doing that. And I said, okay, well, I mean, obviously I'm not going to ask people to like leave their jobs. I said, okay, that's all right. All right, let's talk about it. Next coaching session, we're going to talk about the job that you want. And so then we began to talk about it because like even if the 6 months, at the end of the 6 months, you're like, dude, I'm looking for a new job. That's okay. Because the point is for you to build that foundation, your personal foundation, and it's got to be strong. And I'm telling you, Lori, if that isn't strong, your house is going to fall, period. I'll mark my words on it.
Every program I've ever been in, they say work on yourself first. For women, it's easy for us, I know for me, to focus on other people. And I have a lot of friends with really great boundaries. And I'm always like, wow, that's really awesome, because they know that they have to have those boundaries in place to get the things done, but they don't have to be mean or nasty. And I think maybe that's kind of, when I heard you say that about your husband, I didn't say you do it. I thought that's the key right there. You said, oh, I'll do it. But you might have said, oh, I can't today. Could you? Like, for some reason, we think to be strong, empowered women, we have to be mean. And I don't know. I don't know if that's just a feeling I had, because we don't have to be.
No, we don't have to be. And we can learn to have that rhythm. And honestly, maybe 10 years from now, I'll be like on this campaign to help women who have little children that you can have a job, you can have kids. And, because the truth is that, yeah, sometimes it does require, again, the rhythm. Sometimes it requires you go put part-time, but everything is about your circumstances. That's the key. If I could have a banner and hold it up, that would be the banner. You see, because each one of us has different circumstances. I was married and I had kids, right? Like, I wasn't a single mom, but I didn't have a mom because my mom died, right? She died right before my daughter was born, which is very sad story, but someday I'll tell that. I would be looking at these other women who are like, yeah, I just had my mom come in. It helps with the daycare. Like, I have two of my friends whose mom just lived down the street. Well, that works really well. It's cheaper. It's actually better because you have a family member watching your child. I couldn't do that. That wasn't an option for me, but I'm not going to have guilt on that. That's why you have to say, okay, stop putting yourself under this guilt trip.
What you said about circumstances, because there's people that have trauma. There's people that are raised with great parents and I was just at a business meeting where this woman said, I've been married 47 years. I've been blessed. I know it. I know I have this great life. And she's a businesswoman, and she was the breadwinner for the family, but she figured it out early on. What I would love to see is women take your course and learn what they can do, because it says what I see in your program. It's not, there's systems, but you work with people individually because every circumstance is different.
When I do a team building training, I come in, I talk for 20 minutes, and then we stop and I do a hands-on learning, because nobody can sit there for an hour and listen to me. The conference I'm going to do, I'm bringing in the speakers. They're going to talk for 30 minutes. And when they're done, that's it. And I'm not going to sit there and talk for another 30 minutes. Each person, each business is different and unique. And there's a different reason for why they're having the problems they're having. Each person's having the problems because they're different and unique too.
Well, Ruth, it has been so wonderful to talk to you. Before we go, two things. One is, where can people find you and work with you?
The best way to do it is to email me. Here's my website. I'll give you my website too, because you can go on there and check me out. And that's at www.onplthree.com. Email me. Say, I heard about you from Lori, and I want to know more about this. We'll have a free session, and I'll just tell you about the program. And because I think every person's unique and different, and each one of us has been created for a purpose. We're on this earth for a purpose. That's another thing, Lori, that people don't know. They're like, I have no idea why I'm on this earth. Well, guess what? It's for a purpose. And I want you to find that purpose. You are unique and different. Nobody on this earth is like you. And you're here for a reason.
What is it, Ruth, that you really, really want us to know?
When we understand what our purpose is, it changes our lives. It changes our heart. It changes our mind. It changes the way we view life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Lori. I really appreciate it. I love the conversation. It's my favorite part of podcasting.
If you love this podcast, here's a big ask. Will you share with your friends and family, subscribe, give us a review, and a 5-star rating so that others looking to reinvent their lives will be able to get the help they're looking for? Thank you in advance.